Hello, everybody. It's Donna Cravata with the Real 50 Over 50. And this week we have Jeannie Spiro with us. And Jeannie is a business coach, strategist, and host of the Midlife CEO podcast. She primarily supports successful midlife women coaches and online service providers by taking the complication out of growing, monetizing, and scaling their businesses so they can consistently make more money and move past the struggle to achieve the 6 or 7 figure business they desire. After 25 years of experience as a sales executive and growing her own online coaching business for more than a decade, Jeannie believes this phase of life can be the richest chapter for us all in all possible ways, and is on a mission to help more women make more money and have a business they love at midlife. Welcome, Jeannie. She's also one of my favorite people. I keep having my favorite people here. I don't know what that's about.
You're one of my favorite people in the world, and I love being here with you. So thank you for having me.
Okay, so let's jump right in. So when we met, which was probably 10 years ago.
Yeah, it was around, well, actually, it was about 11 years ago because I remember when it happened. I remember when it met. Exactly.
Really? What was it?
Yeah, I met you at an event, which of course makes sense because, yes, I met you at an event and I was still in my job.
You were still in your job. So what was the moment when you realized that, you had your network moment, like, you stuck your head out the window and you said, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take this anymore?
Oh gosh, I wrote about this in the book that I'm in the Organized book. Well, so I'll just shortcut it a tiny bit though, but I did start my business in 2010. And so I was running a business at the same time I had a job. And then I have a family. And so, why wouldn't you take on everything all at one time? Because I think that's what we do, right?
Yeah,
We just
that's what our 40s are for.
Right. We do it all. So I did. But I had realized that I was interested in coaching and I liked coaching. And I was working sort of more part-time-ish eventually as I was phasing out of that work and then into my business. But I was straddling both at the same time for quite a few years. But the big moment where I decided to really escape was when I thought that I had developed a coaching program and that I was going to be able to replace my income, and I was ready to go off into the world and onto, into the sunset and all that sort of thing. And then life was going to be grand. So I quit my job in spectacular fashion. And it didn't really work out the way I had hoped, but I was following my passion. So that was a rough one.
Yeah. And
it took some time. It took some time for my business to catch up with my life vision. Because the truth of the matter was that I had started my business, I'd been growing it for a long time, and I thought I had everything figured out. And then when I ripped the Band-Aid off and quit my job, I didn't really have it all together. And so I needed to scramble to get it all together over a course of about another year, almost 18 months.
Yeah.
And I was 40 something years old at the time and adult with a lot at stake. So that was rough.
I get it. I get it. And, one of the things that I realized in this whole, land of reinvention that we live in is that it doesn't really happen until you let go of that plan B.
Yeah. You told me that.
Did I?
Told me that.
Did I?
Things are not going to take off until you let go of your plan B. And I'm like, I do? I have to let go of this? Yeah.
It's true though, because you're not fully committed if you've got like, one foot in each arena. And you have to kind of like plant both feet firmly in your business and say, there's no other option.
Yeah. And you had spoken from experience, obviously in that. And so it was really wonderful to connect with you and other women who were helping me through that at a time where I was really uncertain about the journey. And it was really nice to lean into others who'd gone ahead of me in that.
Yeah.
And you were one of them, which was really great.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, like when I quit my job when I was 42, And I stayed on as a consultant for like 6 months, and they paid me a ridiculous amount of money, like
Mm.
$200 an hour or something. And that was like unheard of. But I didn't want it in my house. I would take phone calls from my car. I would bring my laptop into my car and tap into my neighbor's Wi-Fi.
Oh my gosh. That's really good.
Because I just felt like if I brought it into my house,
Yeah,
it was tainted, like this is the house was where my business was. And for years I had this that was then, this is now mentality.
yeah.
And it didn't really click until I had my first course. And
Mhm.
somebody IM'd me after the first session, and she was like, "Well, you're really good at this. Like, how long have you been doing this?" And I said, "This was my first one." She goes, "That was clearly not the first time you've done this."
Yeah,
And I was like, "Oh, I did that for 10 years in my job."
yeah,
And then something just like clicked in my head, and I was like, "Oh, okay. I need to reevaluate this and take those skills that I acquired over the years, and incorporate them into what I'm doing." And, you know, th- then it wasn't about burning the whole thing down anymore. It was a whole different thing.
I was compartmentalizing, which just sounds like what you were doing too. Like I was like, "Oh, you mean I should bring that into my business? Oh, and that experience, that belongs here? Oh, wait a minute, I learned that there and this applies here."
Yes.
I was so willing, I wanted to separate them so much that I was like, "Oh, they don't belong together."
But that doesn't work. You've gotta pull all your pieces together, and it's a process, and it's hard, and, that process also includes, not just, like, lobbing the whole thing off. It means having to go through everything and do, like, an audit almost of your life, to figure out the things that get to come and the things that get to be let go.
Yeah,
And, you need to be I mean, it's just it's a process. It doesn't happen overnight, and anybody that tells you that it does is just flat out lying.
that's right. They are. Yeah.
So, okay, I've got some more questions for you. So what was, like, the moment where you knew that it just, "I can't do this for another minute?"
You know what? I had many of those moments. I actually was really good at my job, and so I had, I started in customer service, and then I had gone into several other positions, all sales related positions, which I never really even realized. And I liked that part of it. I liked retaining clients. I liked renewing clients. I liked developing relationships with them. I liked developing long relationships with potential leads that would become clients. And then when they would become a client, I was like, I love all of this. And it was all of this that I really liked. The part that I also really liked about my old work was um, I I would negotiate contracts, and I would analyze how to save money for the companies that I was working with, and how to figure out the best way to achieve how to save money for them and their businesses. And I was like, oh, I love talking about money, and I love looking at how you can do that. So, in some ways, I was like, I don't want to let some of those pieces go, but I still wasn't thinking about how I could possibly bring them with me into
Mhm.
my work. And I figured, oh, it's time to go. It's time to let that chapter go, because I wanted to release the things that I didn't love about it, what I used to do. So I thought it was burn the ships, get rid of everything, and then start over. So I had this sort of feeling at this point when I was starting to grow my business that I could become a coach, because I really wanted to be a teacher, and I knew a lot, and I couldn't wait to help other women grow their business. And so I was doing that for a long period of time. But then it got to the point where I thought, I'm having all these people that I'm working with, and they're having tremendous success with what I know. And I'm not all the way in yet. I'm still holding on to this other job. Um, and it was partially fear, partially out of responsibility too. And I thought, it's time. Like, I need to do this, because it's time for me to start doing what I really feel like I've been called to do. And then what ended up happening was, in that moment, I was so excited about it, but fear crept in, and I
Mm,
started to get really nervous, like I made the wrong decision.
yeah.
Again, I talk a lot about it in this book, Born to Rise, about what happened in there. And I second guessed myself for a period of time. And that got in the way of my growth, which was really a little bit hard for that first year. But once I figured it out, I was like, all right, I got to get ahead of my mind on this and get back into what I know and what I do and how I can help. And I just locked it in from there. Like, this is all I'm focusing on, and this is my genius. And then there was no stopping after that.
Yeah. But you have to go through it.
I did.
Uh,
And I think a lot of us,
Yeah, because if you don't go through it, you keep coming back to it until you
yeah,
go through it.
yeah, I
Really,
kept
that's an
revisiting
important
it.
part.
Yeah, because I was questioning my value. I was questioning, am I really good at this? Even though I had evidence, I had proof, I had evidence of making money because I'd already been doing it for several years in my business. I knew I could do all the things, except it was all the pressure all of a sudden on me. Like,
Yeah.
wow, this is my business and it's up to me now. There wasn't a safety net for,
No.
like, I'm very fortunate to have my husband, and he earned a living as well. But I also was a breadwinner, and
Mm.
I was also used to making money and really great at my job. And then to go from not having it figured out, it messes with your mind. Like, maybe I'm
It
not good at this.
it totally does. But there's also another piece to this too, and it would be really good to have your input on this perspective because you are a money person. Like when you go from a job to a business, the whole financial structure changes.
Yes.
So it's not even realistic to expect that what you earned in your business is what you're going to earn in what you earned in your job is what you're going to earn in your business because the structure is totally different. It's not the same.
Okay, so I'm going to just tell you how I really figured this out for myself. So what I always loved about working was I loved helping people. I loved being of service. I knew a lot. I was a strategist. I knew all of those things. What I loved about having a job was certainty. I
Mm,
loved knowing that I was going to have a paycheck. I loved knowing when it was going to come in. So I didn't realize that entrepreneurship, I could create that for myself. And
mhm,
so when I started creating coaching programs that allow me to create certainty around the revenue that would come in, I was like, hold on a second, this is a game changer. So I don't have to be selling all the time, and I don't have to worry about unpredictability. I can design my business in a way that supports my worry really around how I was going to make a living. And then I realized, oh, wait a minute, I need to create transformational programs. And transformation doesn't happen in one session or one call. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I can blend these two together. I can help people and serve them longer term with getting a transformation in a coaching program. And I can also get paid to work with people for a longer period of time, which created the certainty. I was like, bingo, I think I figured this out. So that's when things started to come together for me in my business because I stopped having to worry and I
mm,
could get back into
yep,
serving and sort of predictability at the same
mhm,
time.
yep, yeah, and that's what happened in my business too, is I had all of that built, and then I shut it down and started working with these bigger clients, and
Yes.
then the bigger clients totally consumed me, and I
Yeah.
realized I didn't like that, and I didn't like the agency that I built, and then I needed to shut that down, and now I'm going back to what I had before, but building it back in a way that,
Yes.
incorporates all the parts and is sustainable, and in a way, like, due to my own growth and to technology that I wouldn't have been able to do in the
Right.
past.
Right. Yeah. It's
It's
so good.
it's amazing.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
good to experiment and then also to do it and then to say, okay, this might not be working for me anymore. And
Mhm.
also, sometimes I think I've had a tendency to stay in something longer because I was in fear of making the change again. And I also know that when I move faster through that process, I'm like, okay, great. I'm not thinking about it anymore. I'm back. I'm in this groove where I need to be.
Mm-hmm. And I was feeling, I was having one of those beat myself up days. And I spoke to a woman who is part of this Real 50 over 50 thing, who is 75 years old. And she was
Mm,
doing the same thing
yes.
with a
I love that.
smile and
Mhm.
excitement and anticipation. And
Mhm.
that's one of the things that I would love to come from this, is that people are inspired to believe in their own transformation and to believe that they don't have to settle
Yeah.
for something that maybe worked for them in the past but doesn't work for them now.
Yes, exactly. We can evolve and
Yeah,
we can stay as we are,
exactly.
or we can shift. But that's the
Yeah,
beauty of entrepreneurship, I think.
yeah, absolutely. And okay, so this leads me right into my next question. What happened for you when you turned 50? Like what was the change? What was the thing that, for me it's the no bullshit switch.
So I'm a little late start in some things. So when I was turning 50, I was invited to a 50 over 50 photo shoot. I was invited to all sorts of different things. And I was like, oh, cool. I'm 50? Wait a second. Well, it was around the actually, I'd gone to a Lady Gaga concert with my husband, and I remember having this epiphany when it was a couple months after I turned 50. And I remember thinking, hold on a second, I need to talk about turning 50 and how I view being 50 and what's possible for us at 50, because I don't feel like I'm aging. I Yes, I know I am, but I don't feel like this is a conclusion. I feel like this is the beginning. And so how do I want to talk about it? So I remember being at this Lady Gaga concert, and I had this epiphany, like, wow, I think what everything's possible for us. We can feel good in our bodies. We can run businesses. This isn't a closing of a chapter. This is the beginning of something new. And that's when I came back from the concert and I sat down and I thought, I really think I need to create a podcast around this and to
Mhm,
talk more about it. And then all the way I was starting to think about being 50 and running a business over 50 and what's possible for us, I started attracting more women who were in their 40s or 50s and 60s and 70s. And they're like, tell me how to grow your business. And it was like, I started thinking the thoughts, and then more people started coming. And I was like, wait
it's
a
the way
minute,
it works.
communicating this. And then I started my podcast to talk a little bit more about it, to add more to the conversation. And it was simply just awareness of, I want to empower more women to be able to have the business and to be in business at this stage of life and not look at it as like I'm now moving into retirement. Like, if you want to have a business and you want to make it possible for yourself, I'd love to be there for it.
Mhm.
So
So
yeah.
now you've worked between the podcast and your clients and communities that you're in, you've worked with many, many women in
Mhm.
midlife. What are the patterns or similarities that you see as they like move into this next phase of life?
Couple. There's several things that I've noticed. So many of us have had corporate experience or worked in some type of position where we were earning a living before we started our business. So there's the people who've made the decision in their 40s or maybe even bumping up to their 50s and like, I'm not ready to slow down and I like to take what I've done and go and do something now. There's a lot of people in that position. And what's happening is there's one trend that happens is this questioning of what I was talking about before, like, can I do this? Do I know what I'm talking about? Does this make sense to do this right now? So there's a lot of like mindset stuff that happens in that transition from being sort of at the top of your game and doing something else to starting over. And it's like, wait a second, we've all been successful in something before. And so what I do is a lot of work with clients and sort of repositioning how you can be successful in your business at this stage. So I see that a lot for the people who are transitioning from a career in 40s or in their 50s. Like, no, you can own this,
Mhm.
and here's what you need to know. The other thing that I also notice is that those of us who are, 40 and above, 50 and above, we see this. Many of us are seeing this as it's an opportunity for us to do something that we really love doing. We're
Yeah.
passionate about, that excites us, that makes a difference. And that is a common theme for a lot of us. Like, this is our opportunity. And especially now, coming off of the last few years, it's even more meaningful. Like, okay, my children might be leaving the nest, or this feels very important to me. And time is of the essence to do and claim this. And how do I do this and bring this to more people? So there's an excitement and an energy around a lot of women who are really feeling like, I want to do this. How do I do it?
Yeah, and I also think, like, a freshness,
Yeah,
because we've been taking care of other people and other responsibilities, whether it be family or job or extended family or community, for so long. I mean, just in the process of raising children, I mean, how many things do you get sucked into? Like, volunteer things and, just, other, like, collaborative parenting things, that just take up an enormous amount of time, and often with no warning. It's like you get a phone call and drop everything and, go pick up some child because that person picked up your child once. Um,
absolutely.
and
Yeah,
when that just goes away, there's like this spaciousness that wasn't there before. And I think in the past, this is when people would fill that spaciousness with a crisis.
yeah.
And now we don't do that anymore.
No, well, and it's really interesting because I talk to a lot of women who are going through other things that are happening in their life during this time of business growth as well. Personally, I've experienced empty nest a couple of times over the
Mhm.
last
Yeah,
several.
COVID was in the middle of your empty nesting.
Exactly. So I had empty nest when the kids went to college, and it happened 2 years. They
Mhm.
went 2 years apart from each other. Then I had an empty nest, um, when my husband decided to start, he took on a new job, and I was like, "Wait a minute, you're leaving the nest? You were running your business here. Hold on a second." Right? Like, all these things were happening. I had other things that were happening at the same time. So, but what I'm saying is we also navigate all these other things that are happening, our bodies changing, um, uh, what we, how we are viewing ourselves too, and also what's happening situationally in our lives, right? Some great things, some not so great things, and then trying to stay focused on our business growth at the same time. And what I've really been finding for myself personally is the more I stay true to why I'm here and what I'm doing and my excitement, I don't feel as sad about my nest being emptier again, right?
Mhm.
I don't feel as, sad about some situations that I might have felt bad about because I have this that I
Yeah,
really enjoy.
you're
And I know that
fulfilled.
it's fulfillment, true
Yeah,
fulfillment.
yeah, that's amazing. And, um, like, I can't imagine doing anything else.
No,
I
I
just
know.
can't. I
Nope,
can't.
me too.
One of the things that happened this week was the law firm where I worked for 17 years, um, announced that they were merging with another big law firm, and they're, like, making this, like, the biggest, giant, most conglomerate law firm in the world, right? And I just reconnected with all of these people that I worked with, and they're still there. They're there for 30 years, 40 years. I would have been there 33 years if I stayed, and
Mhm.
they were all freaking out, and I just sat back and I was like, "Whoa,
Yeah.
wow." I mean, like, I didn't get past "whoa." I mean, they're all now in their 50s, 60s, and, like, where are they going?
Yeah, I know. I know. Absolutely.
It's
It's
I
it's it's different, I think I would have been really nervous had I been like this, like, let's say I'm at this age and I hadn't had another plan for myself. I probably would be very nervous right now. But
Mm,
I also realized I have so much control. We create things all the times as business owners. We're inventors,
yes.
right? And so I feel like we can continue to invent what's possible for ourselves and our businesses. We can create another launch. We can create another sales strategy. We can create an event and invite people. We can create a new program or course, right? We can do all of these things. And it's because we stay in that space of
Mhm.
creativity. It's like our minds are activated, which is really a nice place to be.
Yeah,
Um,
it is.
and you have
It is.
certainty.
I mean, like, this whole project was an idea I woke up with on February 17th,
Yeah, I remember.
and, we're 3 months in now, and, it's a thing.
And it's the best thing because I remember when you first said you were going to be doing the real 50 over 50, and I was like, "Me, I wanna be in." Like, and everybody did the same thing, right? And I was like, "I can't wait to
I
be in."
think you were, like, the 3rd one that sent in their stuff.
I was like, "I'm all over this." Well, first of all, because A, I love supporting everything that you do. Like, I mean, we've been friends for such a long time too, like business colleagues and friends, and it's so nice to be able to be in support with one another. And that's what this is also about. Like, I've gained incredible friendships
Yeah,
and collaborative partners over the years, which is a secret to our business growth. But back to the Real Over 50 with this project and what you're doing, it's like, of course, everybody's like, yes, I want to tell our story because I think we all really do want to support other
mhm,
women
yeah,
have this level of success or whatever it might be for us at this age, what's possible.
yeah.
So
It
thank you for putting it together.
Well, it's my pleasure because you know, it inspired me so much, and, it still does. I mean, every day, I'm, like, connecting to people and, like, learning something, or it's just been an incredible experience all around, and I adore sharing these stories. I adore, like, opening this up for other people, and, like, all of us sharing our experiences, and I really do see it as legacy that we are creating for younger generations, who are very different than we are, and they were raised very differently than we were, and they will live their lives and age differently than we do. But there's such value here because we are that connection to a world that isn't going to exist like maybe next week.
I want to share something with you because you touched upon the younger generations, and I have a son and a daughter. And when I wrote my chapter in the book, the Born to Rise book, I was like, it felt very factual because it was what I had lived through, and also there were pieces of it that were vulnerable that I hadn't shared before. And so when I was complete, I shared it with my family, and my daughter read it, and she said, I didn't know all of these details, and it's absolutely beautiful, and thank you. And I just didn't know all of that. And, I think it goes to the point of I was living through it, I was going through it, I was getting through it, right? And now I can look back and say, oh, that was a really amazing chapter. And look what
Mhm.
I've overcome. And I get
Yeah,
to tell my children and
yes.
they can see that. And I think that's really important for them to know about our journeys too, and have these stories be shared with them.
I agree. I started to write a blog on Substack of my personal essays, and my son. I have only written a few so far because I've been busy, like building all of these things. But I will swing back to that and write regularly on it. And my son said to me, he goes, "That's going to be how I know my whole history is through your stories."
Beautiful.
And it's so important that we share them, and our business stories, our personal stories, how they intertwine, because I almost think that's the most important part of it, because like the way that we were raised, it was like there was work and then there was life, but that's not true.
Yeah, right.
That's
There's
not
more.
true. When you love what you
Yeah,
do, it's intertwined with your life. When you love the people that you work with, they become your friends. I mean, we've been friends for years.
we
Like, I
do.
can't even imagine you not being in my life, and that, whether it's work or personal. And like when we get together and we talk, it's like a tennis match of, how's your parents? Who's your client? What are you doing? And how's the kids?
Right.
And
Well,
what's the strategy?
the first time. Okay, so I'm going to go back in time to the first time that I met you, and we were at an event, and I was like, oh my gosh, look at all these people, and they all know each other, and they're all good friends already. And I was, but I was full. I kind of folded right in, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is great. And then you had your own event, and you you remember you had this event, and you invited these
one event.
and you invited these incredible people, and I was like, this is amazing. Like, I was just at that stage in my business where I had gone from my job to growing my business completely online. Basically, I didn't want anyone to know that I was growing my business. I had a kind of a little bit of a disadvantage because I didn't want anyone to know that I was growing my business because I didn't want to lose my job.
Yeah.
So how do you grow a business? You do it
This is why
online.
you can't have 2 feet in different worlds, because you get cut in half.
Right. So I did it remarkably without other people knowing. But when I came to these types of events, and yours was one of them, I was like, there's amazing people here. This is incredible. Thank you for that. Like, that's how I felt at that time. Like, I belong somewhere. And that's what I think it's like, many of us have felt like we've gotten this advantage of these connections and a new sense of belonging too.
Yeah. Yeah. And but it's a different thing than what we were raised with.
Very
Like,
different.
I mean, I worked in law firms. It was cutthroat, everyone was out to get each other. And it doesn't exist in my world anymore.
Very
Like,
different.
I couldn't imagine having to deal with that.
Wow.
And even growing up, my mom would tell me, well, if it was, if it was supposed to be fun, they wouldn't call it work.
No.
That was that's what was indoctrinated into me about work.
No.
But we flipped that story. Okay, let me see. We're going a little bit over, but that's okay. I have another question for you. How do you envision 60, 70, 80, or even beyond that? Where's Jeannie then?
Yeah, I'm planning to work for as long as I choose to work. And whatever that looks like, as long as I'm making a difference, I want to keep working. And I love it. I plan to have as many experiences as I possibly can with my family. And I want to travel more. I want to see things I haven't seen. And I'm aging positively and powerfully. That's my goal.
I love that, aging positively. Writing that down.
That to me means my mindset and my well-being and in activation. Like, how do I continue to activate my mind? How do I do things that give me joy? How do I spend time with people who I enjoy spending time with and experiences? And how do I keep doing the work that I love for as long as I want to do it?
That's beautiful.
So that's how I look at it.
Well,
Thank
I
you.
don't think we could top that.
Thank you.
So I think that's how we wrap this up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining, and connect with Jeannie at jeanniespiro.com, and also check out the new book that she contributed a chapter to, Born to Rise. It launched last week, I believe. And there we go. Well, thank you for joining us, whether you joined live or on the replay. Put comments in here and come and join every Wednesday at noon Eastern Time, where we are interviewing another wonderful woman who's over the age of 50. Thank you.
Thank you.